achieved.
Welcome back to Kamikaze Overdrive MMA Predictions. As always, I am your host, Scott Johnson. And on this episode of the show, we're going to be taking a look at two separate events. First and foremost, on March 2nd, we have the UFC on FX2, Alves versus Kampmann. And following that up on March 3rd, we have Strikeforce, Tate versus Rousey. I'm going to be doing 5 predictions and all. We'll see what those predictions are in a second. The rest of my picks will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net. You can check that out, along with my UFC 144 blog. My review of the event. I went 5 and 6. There were some close events. I'm going to talk about that in Kamikaze Countdown. And, of course, my betting picks are available. I have all kinds of betting scenarios and things that I'm going to be throwing out there. You can check them out on the site as well in the bet shop. Now, the Grand Prix tournament has come to a conclusion, the Prediction Grand Prix tournament. Congratulations to both competitors, Klubal and Kane Gotti, and Klubal emerged victorious. Again, I'm hoping to have Klubal begin posting on the website. I'm still in talks with them to see what we can work out. But either way, both fantastic, knowledgeable predictors. Good for both of them. And thank you for everyone who participated. And keep your eyes out for the next tournament. It could be coming in the next couple of months. And always, before we get into my predictions, I'd like to thank all my sponsors, MMABettingOdds.com, MMACrips.com, CouchFighter.co. Who else am I missing? Of course, the boys over at the Adrenaline Training Center, thank you very much. And all their links are available on my site, so you can go to my site and check out their website and everything they have to offer from there. And I think that's enough for me. Let's get into my first. In the Strikeforce welterweight division, 27-11-2, Paul Semtex Daley takes on Kazuo Hitman Misaki, 24-11-2. Misaki is on a 2-fight winning streak, while Daley has also earned 2 wins in a row, but has dropped his last 2 appearances in Strikeforce. Paul Daley is a heavy-handed striker, earning 20 wins by knockout, including victories over Martin Kampmann and Duane Ludwig. But just as significant a stat, Daley has been submitted 5 times and lost a number of decisions, most notably to Josh Koscheck and Tyron Woodley, because he wasn't able to defend the takedowns. Now, Kazuo Misaki is a very experienced fighter with 9 victories by tap-out, and he would probably be best served if he's able to put Daley on his back for the duration of the bout. But Misaki is more than capable if this fight remains standing with 6 wins by knockout. From the clinch, Misaki will attack the body with knee strikes. He leads with his left, either a jab or a quick hook, and does so with power as he dropped Jorge Sandiego with 1 punch. Now, he won't hesitate to stand and trade with an opponent, but against Melvin Manhoef, this cost him as Misaki was stopped by a series of vicious hooks. Misaki's last 2 defeats have come via knockout, and with the number of battles he has been through, the damage may be beginning to catch up with him. Now, Paul Daley has a very dangerous striking arsenal. Along with a vicious left hook, he will throw a looping uppercut. He hurt Luigi Fioravanti with a heavy leg kick, and he will attack from the clinch with both knees and elbow strikes. Daley's clinch work is dangerous, pulling his opponent's head down, often jumping up to increase the force behind his knee strikes. If he's able to land this technique, it is effective, but the Brit has a tendency to get a little wild with his knee strikes, both in the clinch and at distance, which creates openings for his opponent to take the fight to the ground. Now, Paul Daley has improved his takedown defense significantly. He avoided 12 of Tyron Woodley's 14 attempts, and he showed impressive balance against Jordan Radev, who got deep several times on a single leg, but was unable to get Daley off his feet. Misaki doesn't have the greatest takedown numbers, averaging .68 takedowns per fight, but when George Santiago attempted a flying knee, Misaki capitalized immediately and scored the takedown. On the mat, Misaki has good control, will transition, and he isn't afraid to go for a submission. If he is able to get Daley off his feet, the Brit will be in trouble, but Daley's improved grappling defense should be enough to keep this fight standing if he doesn't make a mistake. Daley's cardio can be a problem, but he has shown when he fights at a controlled pace, it's not nearly as big an issue. Daley has 1-punch knockout power, and if he keeps the fight standing, he should win the majority of the striking exchanges, so my prediction is Paul Daley to defeat Kazuo Misaki. In the newly created UFC flyweight division, Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson, 14-2, takes on 11-2 Uncle Creepy Ian McCall. Johnson is returning from his bantamweight title fight loss, while McCall captured the Tai Chi Palace Fights flyweight title in his last fight. Now, the flyweights have officially arrived, and my expectation is that this is going to take the meaning of fast-paced fight to an entirely new level. Now, Ian McCall is currently ranked as the #1 flyweight in the world, earning a victory over former #1 Jussier da Silva back in February 2011. McCall and Johnson share one common opponent in Dominic Cruz, with Cruz defeating both individuals by decision. McCall had a 1-2 record in the WEC, but is 3-0 since dropping to 125. Uncle Creepy has an even spread of wins with 4 knockouts, 3 subs, and 4 decisions. He has a diverse fighting style with excellent striking technique and a competent ground game. His striking methodology bears a resemblance to Cruz in that he does a great deal of footwork and attacks from a ton of angles. He most often will lead with his left, sometimes faking a jab to set up an overhand right, or going with a straight left-right uppercut combo. He has heavy leg kicks targeting all areas of the body and will use knees both at range and with elbows within the clinch. Now, Johnson's speed makes him difficult for anyone to handle on the feet. He will quickly close the distance while attacking with a series of rapid hooks and either clinch or attempt a quick high kick before the exit. He has power in his hands, hurting Kid Yamamoto with a left hook, and has a decent 1-2 combination that he lands while moving away to avoid the counter. Now, Demetrious pressed the action against Cruz, which limited Dominic's footwork and stifled his striking, forcing the champ to rely on his takedowns. This could be the deciding factor in this matchup, as both McCall and Johnson have solid ground games. In his 3-fight WEC stint, McCall attempted 14 takedowns, landing 6, while Johnson averages 4 takedowns per fight, completing 65% of his attempts. McCall is a good grappler with decent takedowns and transitions. Johnson has 6 wins by tap-out, but in his fight with Yamamoto, his ability to dart under Kid's strikes at close range for a shot was simply unbelievable. Against Cruz, he was taken down several times, but did an excellent job getting back to his feet, and he's trained by Matt Hume, so his ground defense is quite good. In round 1 of the McCall-De Silva fight, McCall was taken down by De Silva and spent the entire round with De Silva on his back. This resulted in Ian limiting his kicks and created questions about his ability to deal with an opponent with a solid offensive ground game. The success Demetrious had against Cruz indicates he should be able to handle McCall on the feet, and fighting at a more appropriate weight class for Johnson's size will make his wrestling aided by his strength in addition to his speed. Look for him to mix up his striking and takedowns to control McCall, so my prediction is Demetrious Johnson to defeat Ian McCall by decision and move on to the first UFC. In the second flyweight title tournament semifinal, 15-2-0 Joseph Benavidez welcomes promotional newcomer 19-4-6 Yasuhiro Urushitani. Benavidez has won 3 in a row, while Urushitani is riding a 5-fight winning streak. Benavidez has fought as an undersized bantamweight his entire career, defeating the former divisional champions Eddie Wineland and Miguel Torres, with his only 2 career defeats against Dominic Cruz. Now, Urushitani is the former Shuto 123-pound champion and is ranked by SheerDog.com as the number 3 flyweight in the world. He has fought the majority of his career in Japan and holds a win over Ultimate Fighter winner John Dodson. Urushitani is predominantly a striker compared to Benavidez, who has a wrestling base, but Benavidez has developed decent and dangerous stand-up, and Urushitani has a background in judo. Now, Yasuhiro hasn't showcased significant striking power throughout his career, winning just 4 fights by knockout compared to 14 by decision. The Japanese fighter is a technically sound striker with a relaxed demeanor, and he has never been knocked out. He sets his strikes up properly using a straight left-right hook combo, a straight right in combination with a left high kick, and a nice low kick right hook pairing. He is a capable counter striker, landing his right hand off his opponent's kick either by absorbing it or catching it and countering. He is 1-1 in fights decided by submissions, and in the footage I've seen, he doesn't threaten with a lot of takedowns. Conversely, Joseph Benavidez' submission game is dangerous with 8 wins, including tapping out vaunted ground fighters Miguel Torres and Wagner Fabiano. His takedown stats aren't earth-shattering at 1.5 takedowns every 15 minutes, completing only 26% of his attempts, but in his UFC debut, he did make 17 attempts against Ian Loveland, landing 5, and consideration should be given to the fact that he is normally the smaller fighter. When shooting for a single leg, Benavidez uses a leg vine to wrap up one of his opponent's legs, which takes away their base and helps him to complete the attempt. On the ground, he has a dangerous guillotine choke and decent ground and pound. In most of his fights, he has had to compensate for reach disadvantage when striking by jumping into his strikes, but this shouldn't be an issue here. He swings with power, but has just 3 knockout wins, and he will use kicks to set everything up. Against a good striker in Eddie Wineland, he did a ton of damage with his right hand, often countering as his opponent came forward and using his quickness to avoid getting hit. It will be interesting to see how Benavidez fighting without a physical disadvantage. Urushitani is a good striker and is more technically refined, but the power and frenetic pace of Benavidez will be a huge factor. I haven't seen a lot of footage of Yasuhiro on the ground, but this should change here as I anticipate Benavidez will frequently look to take his opponent down. Benavidez' strength advantage will amplify his superior ground game, and this will be the deciding factor in this bout. If he can break down Urushitani with his top game, submission opportunities will begin to open up. So my prediction is Joseph Benavidez to defeat Yasuhiro Urushitani by submission and advance to the first ever UFC flyweight title fight, hopefully. In the Strikeforce main event, the women's bantamweight title will be on the line as Miesha Tate, 12-2-0, puts her belt on the line against challenger Rowdy Ronda Rousey 4-0. Tate is fresh off a submission victory over Marloes Coenen, while Rousey defeated Julia Budd in her last appearance. Now this prediction really comes down to one fairly straightforward question. Can Miesha Tate avoid the vicious submission skills of Ronda Rousey? To put things in perspective, Miesha required just over 18 minutes to submit Marloes Coenen, while Rousey's entire professional career, 4 wins, all by armbar, has lasted a total of 2 minutes and 18 seconds. Even if you add on Rousey's 3 amateur fights, also 3 wins by armbar, it will only increase the total by an additional minute 47. Rousey is a decorated judo player, winning the multiple medals at the international level, including a bronze at the 2008 Summer Olympics. Her transition to MMA has been swift and violent, using her judo to control her opponent, take them down, and submit them. As her name would imply, the champion is no slouch on the ground either. Training out of Team Alpha Male with Uriah Faber, Chad Mendes, and Joseph Benavidez, Miesha Tate's fight game is wrestling-based, completing 3.74 takedowns per fight. She has defended 100% of her opponent's takedowns and has 5 wins by submission. She will strike, but the majority of her stand-up is meant to set up her ground game. Against Marloes Coenen, she worked on her in the clinch along the cage and eventually took Coenen down. She controlled Marloes on the ground, mainly inside control, eventually setting up the finish from this position, transitioning beautifully to the opposite side while locking in the arm triangle. One fight prior, Tate earned a decision victory over talented judo player Hitomi Akano. The majority of the fight was spent on the mat, and although Tate won, she wasn't nearly as dominant in the grappling exchanges, landing a minimal amount of top strikes and constantly scrambling to maintain control. Ronda Rousey really hasn't shown much of her striking because her grappling has been so effective. From the opening bell, Rousey will push forward and immediately initiate the clinch. Although she has won all of her fights by armbar, she has done it in a variety of ways. Her preferred way is to clinch, use a headlock, hip toss combination, and either transition directly to the armbar or mount and use strikes to open her opponent up and then attack the arm. She has also set up the move from her opponent's guard, and against Sarah D'Alelio, she used a flying armbar while they were in the clinch. If Miesha Tate plans on retaining her title, she would be best served by avoiding the grappling game at least early, using her striking to wear down Rousey and drag this fight into the later rounds. That being said, I believe that Tate relies too much on her wrestling not to eventually tie up with the challenger, and even if Tate wants to avoid grappling with Ronda, I believe Rousey will be able to get her hands on the champion. Rousey can set up her submissions in a variety of ways, which means that Tate's defense will need to be letter perfect on the mat, which will be a difficult task. So my prediction is Ronda Rousey to defeat Miesha Tate by submission, most likely an armbar, and become the new women. We move now to the UFC main event, and this fight is my Adrenaline Training Center Certified Overdrive Fight of the Night. In the main event, 24-7 Thiago the Pitbull Alves takes on 18-5 Martin the Hitman Kampmann. Alves has won 2 of his last 3, and Kampmann 3 of his last 5. Now, these fighters are 2 of the most talented Muay Thai practitioners in the UFC. They have combined for 18 knockout victories, and both use a style that other strikers should try to emulate, with limited wind-up, always maintaining a tight defense, and simply never getting sloppy with their technique. Statistically, both men land an average of over 3 strikes per minute, while avoiding in the mid-60% range of their opponent's attempts. In Kampmann's fight against Diego Sanchez, his technical striking short-circuited the wild, aggressive style of Sanchez. Kampmann did a lot of damage to Diego, leading with a left jab, following with a straight right, and dropping with a perfectly timed short left counter. Martin will use his knee strikes, especially against an opponent looking for a takedown attempt. He will also use them with the tie clinch, and he will kick, but he has a tendency to focus more on his boxing. Now, Thiago Alves' kicks are lethal, distributing them mainly between the legs and body. Alves turns his hip over, which adds additional power, and even a seasoned Muay Thai fighter like John Howard was limping after Alves connected. In the Howard Alves fight, Thiago devastated his opponent with a variety of strikes, setting up his kicks with his hands, attacking with a crisp 1-2 combo, working in knees, and countering his opponent's leg kick with a straight left and their left hook with a brutal overhand right, and he did all of this with power. Now, both Martin and Thiago have similar vulnerabilities. Each has had issues with getting pinned along the cage. Paul Daley stopped Kampmann when he cornered him and blasted him with a left hand. Thiago had his success when he was able to cut off the cage, and even Rick Story hurt Martin early on by backing him against the wall while attacking. In Thiago's fights with Story and John Fitch, he was limited by the wrestler's ability to close the distance and pin him on the wall. Both men have decent and improving ground games. Martin has 6 submission wins, while Thiago earned his last win by tap out. Alves has used a traditional wrestling style shot, but both he and Kampmann prefer to clinch, where Kampmann will use a misdirection trip like he did against Story, and Alves will attempt a body lock takedown. Now, this fight could spend some time on the ground, but I anticipate that the majority of the sequences will be striking. As I've said before, both men have excellent technique. The difference will be Thiago's power in his hands and his kicks. Kampmann has been knocked out 3 times, and we have seen him hurt in other fights. He is most effective when he keeps the fight technical. Unfortunately, in this bout, Alves will be more than willing to oblige him, taking away Martin's comfort zone. When Kampmann gets hit hard, he has a tendency to fade, and his power seems to dissipate as the fight progresses. Alves has had issues with cardio, but he seems to be working through it, and in his last 4 defeats, his opponents combined for 26 takedowns, which he should be able to avoid here, while outstriking Martin both in volume and impact. So my prediction is Thiago Alves to defeat Martin. Welcome back to Kamikaze Countdown. A couple things I want to talk about from UFC 144, mainly the close decisions. The night kicked off with Chris Carriasso defeating Takeya Mizugaki by controversial decision. Dana White gave Mizugaki his win bonus because he thought he should have won the fight. He secured a takedown in each round, spent a good portion of time on top, and actually outlanded Carriasso in the striking by total strikes. But the thing is, I think Carriasso got the win because he was more effective with the strikes he did throw, and he was a little more active off his back. Mizugaki kind of got on top and just kind of blanketed him, where Carriasso was a little attacked off the bottom with submissions and strikes. And I think that's why he got the win. It was close. I was a little bit surprised, but either way, that's the way the judging goes. Obviously, the main event, Ben Henderson versus Frankie Edgar, was a controversial decision. Dana felt that Frankie got the win. I could see how Ben got it. I'm surprised he actually still got the title. But, Frankie outlanded him. I think he did a better job with his takedowns. But simply put, Ben Henderson did more damage with his strikes. And it looks at that scenario where Frankie's landing 3 punches and Ben's landing 1, and Ben doesn't show any effects, and Frankie's got a bloody nose, which is more significant. If Ben goes for a takedown and doesn't get it and clinches and pulls away, and Frankie shoots for a takedown, maybe secures it and doesn't do anything, is that really that much more significant? Like he took it one step further and put him on his back. Either way, tough decisions. They always say don't let it go to the judges. But at the same time, fighters should have enough security when they're fighting to know, if I'm doing this, am I winning the fight? Either way, I do believe Ben Henderson won that fight. It was a close fight. I'd like to see him do it again, but I actually would really like to see Ben Henderson versus Anthony Pettis next for the title. We'll see if Dana makes that happen. So those are my predictions for both events. I did 5 on the show. There's a ton of predictions left. I'll be doing throughout the week, and you'll be able to find them on KamikazeOverdrive.net. I'll be very busy. And also on KamikazeOverdrive.net, you can check out my betting packages. They're only $5. They're very cheap. I have them for multiple events. You can buy a deluxe pack, which includes everything. Also, prop bets are involved. So please check them out at KamikazeOverdrive.net. I thank all my sponsors, and congratulations to Kluble for winning the Kamikaze Overdrive Grand Prix Prediction Tournament. I'm hoping to get his picks for these 2 events posted on the site as well, because people were asking about them, so we'll see what we can do there. Kane Gotti, who finished second, congratulations to him as well. He did an excellent job. And UFC 145 is the next event. That event's got a little bit of time off, so we get a little bit of a break, so I'm going to enjoy it. As always, thank you very much for watching Kamikaze Overdrive MMA Predictions.